Good evening, everybody. This is Thanimass, and I am here for PhillyCAM Voices, and I want to welcome State Representative Morgan Cephas. Hello, good evening.
How are you ladies doing? Just as a correction, I am the Democratic nominee.
Oh,
yes,
okay.
Yes, after the general election, God willing, if my mother votes for me, then I'll be the state rep-elect, and then December 1, I'll be the state representative. It's
nice.
It's an entire transition.
Yeah.
Okay,
nice.
Mom. So, Mom, you hear that?
Yes.
Right. Everything lies on you.
Yeah.
You gotta get
That
out.
one vote.
That one
Yes.
vote.
That one vote.
Yes.
So we want to welcome you, and this is Lauren, and
Yes.
we were anxious to get you here, and we were doing a lot of research on you.
No, I appreciate it.
And so I'm just going to dive right into it. You know, this is all about women and empowerment this time around. So one of the things that I wanted to hear straight from you right off the back is, you know, as a female in this field, what are the challenges you're facing now as a woman trying to get into the political arena, or you're in the political arena?
Yeah, I mean, some of the challenges are just, and you know, I do want to thank you guys for not only hosting this show, but really focusing on, you know, putting more women into, you know, the political landscape, especially up in Harrisburg, which is, you know, where I'll be representing. I believe, you know, we have a very small contingency of women that are up in Harrisburg, and you know, when you look at things, the makeup of Harrisburg, but also the makeup of City Council when it comes to women, just the general makeup of women in politics as a whole, and we represent a good portion of the electorate. You know, you evidently just see that that's not an issue, but looking at it as a challenge and an opportunity to really continue to break through that glass ceiling, and that's, you know, what this election has really represented. And you know, just some of the challenges, just being an African American female, but you know, also, you know, being a millennial has been, you know, kind of challenging. Just, you know, always asking the question, you know, is she too young? You know, is she going to be, you know, emotional when she, you know, takes a vote, and you know, how's she going to hold up with the aggression? Can she be aggressive where we need her to be? And you know, this election cycle really just, you know, forced you to focus on the issue. And I think one of the really great things that you saw, you know, our future president, Clinton, is, you know, not focus on, you know, being that woman candidate, but you know, really focusing on the issues that, you know, affect our communities across the board. So the issue of education, the issue of, you know, gender equality, but also the issue of higher education, the issue of, you know, job creation and things like that. So, you know, not putting that, you know, woman card forward, but, you know, just acknowledging the issues that we're dealing with, you know, as a community, as a society, as a whole. And I think that has been not necessarily a challenge, but really an opportunity to get my electorate to not focus, you know, primarily on my gender, but really just focus on the task that we have ahead of us.
Nice.
So what would be basically some advice that you would offer, for example, like a minority woman, you know, of color, and, you know, being a woman is considered a minority as well.
I mean, listen, I'm not going to be the one to tell you that it was easy. It was not easy. It was, you know, definitely a challenge. You know, one of my, you know, great mentors, Councilwoman Blondell Reynolds Brown, she often says, you know, you're either at the table or you're on the menu. And as a female,
I like that one.
Wow, yes, that's profound.
That's a tweetable.
I always have to give credit where credit is due, because I did not, you know, realize that reality as a female, you know, not politician, but a public servant, official, that, you know, it is very demanding. And she also says that as a female, you got to wear the high heels, you got to walk backwards, you got to blindfold, and you got to, you know, have your game face on every day. And we know as females what the game face
is, right?
Yes,
I think we do a better job at that than the male counterpart.
But you know, I really think, you know, when it comes to young women, you know, getting involved, I think the the thing to do is just to get out there and get
That's
involved.
right.
There are so many amazing organizations that, you know, really work to, you know, build women up to get them prepared, especially young women. So, you know, you have an organization called She Can Win, which is run by Jasmine Sessoms, and, you know, she does an amazing job with, you know, training, you know, the next generation of electives. I mean, she was a big supporter in my campaign, and she, you know, she connected me to a lot of progressive women. So looking for organizations like She Can Win. But then you also have an organization called Represent PAC, which is, you know, an organization that's focused on, you know, putting more women into, you know, the General Assembly. And, you know, they're having an amazing election this year. They're sending so many more women up to Harrisburg this year.
Wow.
And, you know, it really just speaks to your ability to really get this done. I mean, we know, you know, when it comes to women, your heart is there. We know, you know, we have the story of, you know, when policies are just not working for the families that we're raising, or the education system's not working. I mean, we're there on the ground day to day, recognizing what those issues are. And I think the goal is just to build a coalition of individuals and organizations who really are, you know, looking to put more women into, you know, these elected positions, because we know what they bring to the table. And that was really important to me. So, you know, I didn't get the Democratic Party endorsement. So it really just forced us to, I mean, we always look at these challenges as opportunities to bring unique coalitions together.
Right.
That's, you know, really what me and, you know, my campaign manager, Marcus Spivey, we were able to do. We brought together a coalition of labor leaders, a coalition of, you know, activists that were, you know, on the grassroots level. You know, we also had big supporters from, you know, Ryan Boyer, who's Local 332, DC 33 with, you know, Sherman Harris and Pete Matthews. I mean, 1199C was humongous in our race with Christopher Woods, who's, you know, a young labor leader that's, you know, really coming up in this field as well. And we also had dynamic, you know, women in labor. Women in labor, they were amazing. I mean, you know, women, we are the devil and are in the details. You know, we got the vision and we can execute the plan. So a lot of strong women in labor were, you know, with us. We had Hillary from the PFT. We had, you know, Vanessa Fields from, you know, DC 47 again. So it really took, you know, a good core coalition of individuals to come together to, you know, make this happen. And, you know, I was one of, you know, 5 in the race. So, you know, competitive.
Oh my goodness.
It was intense, but it was a good intense. I mean, the 192nd, you know, represents West Philadelphia, so it's, you know, close to City Avenue, it's Overbrook Park.
That's my area. Yes.
I grew up in Winfield, born and raised. And we were, you know, coming behind a really dynamic leader who is a former state representative, Louise Bishop.
She's
She's
an
iconic woman.
Iconic. She held the seat for, you know, 30 years.
Wow, exactly.
And, you know, she's, you know, still an advocate, still working hard for the district, and, you know, I always just have to, you know, recognize the work that she did, because, you know, I would not be able to have as much of a bold vision if it was not for her leadership and her foundation.
I have a question about that. With obviously there's a lot of changes happening in West Philadelphia, major changes happening in West Philadelphia. So when you see that, it's almost like a positive and a negative, right? It's like you see all these changes, but as a person in that part of the city, the issues that are now coming up are the increase of taxes. So what advice have you been given, like the fixed income in West Philadelphia? Because I mean, it's amazing what is happening, right? We're seeing millions and millions of dollars of projects being built in West Philadelphia. So for the most part, it's great, but you do have these long-term families within West Philadelphia that are on a fixed income, you know, and I'm sure they're coming to you and saying, hey, my taxes are going to triple. You know, what does that mean? So what advice have you been giving them, even though it's a good thing for your community, but...
No, I mean, you're right. I mean, it's happening across Philadelphia. I mean, you see it in, you know, South Philadelphia in Councilman Kenyatta's district and State Representative Jordan Harris. You see it happening in North Philadelphia, Council President Darrell Clark. But then you also see it happen in, you know, Councilwoman Janie Blackwell's district, who represents University City, Drexel, UPenn. And, you know, progress is good, but, you know, you have to realize progress is not progress. progress for all people. And as much as my district is fortunate enough to border Montgomery County and Upper Darby, so development is inevitably going to reach us and touch us. And I do not want my district to be left behind when it comes to the development of Philadelphia. And we have commercial corridors that need to be rebuilt. We have older housing that needs to be preserved and stabilized, and we have neighborhoods that just need to be restored. But to your point, how do you move the district to that level of progress without pushing residents out? And you do that in a couple of ways. I mean, you saw city council members pass policies that capped people's taxes at a certain level, or deferred the taxes, or offered homestead programs where it would cut the taxes and the revenue that was due. Coming up with policies and strategies like that. And I think one of the things that has really been amazing, you have Councilman Curtis Jones Jr., who is my councilman. He's been championing housing preservation. So a lot in West Philadelphia, you have old housing stock, you have a lot of seniors that are living in these properties. So one of the things that he's championed for a long time, and I reference him because I worked for him for 6 years, so it's like it's almost where I get my foundation and why I have to understand that you can't just develop and then push families out. But what they've done is expanded the basic systems home repair program, which is a program that is traditionally for low-income residents to provide small repairs. So and these are repairs that really push families out because they can't afford the maintenance, they can't afford the taxes, and what they've done is created a fund to stabilize those residents. So before you had the basic system home repair where it was just for low-income residents, and you'd be able to fix your roof, or you'd be able to fix some piping, small repairs, but repairs that are critical, that keep you in your properties. And we actually did 2 of those projects, myself and Councilman Curtis Jones Jr., along with an organization called Winfield Overbrook Revitalization Corporation. And what we did was we took about 50 homes and made those repairs. And those are low-income residents, but they're also seniors who are on fixed income, but might not meet that low-income guideline. So it almost essentially creates a new level of poverty because you don't qualify for the low-income programs, but you don't have the extra disposable income to make those repairs. So partnering with organizations like that, partnering with the council members to expand those dollars, and that's what City Council has done. Like, they've expanded to $100 million additional dollars to take care of course, the backlog, but then also creating a small low interest fund for loan fund for people that aren't necessarily low income but need those small repairs done, but don't want to be gouged with high interest rates and things like that. And I think it's looking at unique policies and strategies that way to help people keep them in their homes. So of course, just to reiterate, having the tax policies, having the deferring taxes until your property is sold, or making sure seniors aren't forced to pay any additional taxes if they've lived there for a certain period of time.
And they own their home.
And they own their home. They bought it like $20,000 when they first bought it.
Years ago. Right.
So it's a mixture of that, but then a mixture of how do we stabilize these houses, and how do we take one of the great things about being a state representative that's coming from this city government is that you understand that the city has fixed dollars. So you have the city where they're doing $100 million for these properties, but how do we go up on the state level and be strategic to leverage and align those dollars to create a larger pot to take care of more people? So I really think that's how it's done.
That's good, because you need somebody that's in the community to do that. You know what I mean? Like, it won't happen with someone that's already in Harrisburg or whatever. They wouldn't understand West Philadelphia if they've never been there, they've never lived there, they don't know what those challenges are.
I mean, they always say politics is local. And it's the politics, it's the people, it's the policies that you do on the ground grassroots that, you know, get you into these positions. And, you know, they really are looking for you to take them into a different direction, take the district into a different direction. So, you know, you can't just stay up in the Capitol. You gotta, you gotta understand what's going on. Yeah,
it's like undercover boss. You know? You gotta get out into the community.
You do. You gotta roll up your sleeves.
Absolutely.
You really gotta roll up your sleeves.
Absolutely.
So I wanted to say, I know you've done some things for the youth. That's one thing that's important to me, the youth and the community. So what advice, I guess, would you offer to the younger generation, the ones that are just turning 18, and the importance of voting, getting out and vote, you know, not just voting in the presidential election, but, you know, all year round voting, you know, and voting down the ballot, you know, how
I'm just glad you said it, because I'm down the ballot.
Exactly. Right?
I am down the ballot.
That's important, like that's vital to the community. You know what I mean?
I do. I mean, and one of the things that I really stress is because, you know, throughout this election cycle, you just saw, you know, just so many things thrown at, again, you know, Hillary Clinton and even our senator that's running, Katie McGinty, where you just saw so many things thrown at them. And, you know, it's difficult. I mean, in our age, we understand how to, you know, cipher through, you know, the muckiness. But when you have a new voter coming in and you just see the divisiveness, you just, you know, see the attack ads, you know, it really begins to taint their perception and perspective. I mean, politics already has like a negative connotation. But, you know, what I like to remind people is that being a politician is really just being a public servant. And it's, you know, when you're doing it right, you're advocating for your community, you're bringing resources back, you're building your community by way of education, by way of jobs, by way of, you know, senior housing. And, you know, that's what I like to remind people of, the core of, you know, what we're doing, why we're doing this, you know, coming away from, you know, the sound bites and, again, the attack ads, but really focusing on, you know, how you move the needle in the community. And that's what I talk about when I talk to young people. And, you know, the great part about not having an opponent in a general election is that you have an opportunity to connect with other campaigns and really to bring that grassroots conversation to, you know, larger discussions. So like the Senate race and like the presidential race. So, you know, I had an opportunity to partner, I believe it's Girls Inc. or Girls Votes. And it's an organization that brings in young women and tries to get them engaged into the electoral process, you know, early in their career. So high school students, middle school students, all the way down to elementary school students. And, you know, how I explained like what the connection was, I just talked about my story. So, you know, being from West Philadelphia, you know that, you know, we don't have a magnet school there. We did not have a magnet school when we were growing up. And, you know, I was one of those kids that had to, you know, wasn't reading on grade level by the time I got to third grade. And, you know, had to travel all the way down to Brownality in order to access a quality school. And it's that reality. It's, you know,
you graduated from Central.
I did. So, you know, that's something that they can relate to, like when they're in their school buildings and, you know, just the smallest things, like, you know, the bathrooms that they have to use, or, you know, one of the great things that Councilwoman Helen Gim did was, you know, really force the school district to put in hydration systems. And so our kids wouldn't be drinking lead. When you, you know, when you make it, you know, to that basic level, to, you know, them going to school every day. And, you know, one of the things I asked them, and again, being from West Philadelphia, you look across the street to Lower Marion, you know that there is a difference immediately. And not just what was my question to them, like, do you know a school that is better than the school that you go to? And, you know, all of them said yes. And I mentioned Lower Marion, they were just like, all of them just, you know, realized it was just something different. It's like right there.
Across the street. It's in your backyard.
It is. And, you know, I was a track and field athlete when I was younger. And, you know, we ran at Lower Marion's high school. So we just knew. We didn't even have a track to access when we were younger. We had to go and use the St. Joe's University's track. And just to see the staunch difference and the resources that they were given versus what we were given explains it all. And, you know, when you talk to younger people, you have to connect them to the issue, not necessarily, you know, the candidate. It's the issue the issue that they, you know, that they can resonate with, that, you know, is really what we should be tagging on, is that if you don't, and I always talk about this, I put my campaign office across the street from two things that were critical for me. Well, three things. One is it's on a commercial corridor, Lancaster Avenue. You know, it's not the good Lancaster Avenue. It's the Lancaster Avenue. That's
I know what you're talking about. But you're in the community.
Yes. It's I like to say it's up and coming. So we're just waiting a little bit. But you know, I put my office there because it, you know, it made a statement along that corridor that you know, we need to bring this back, because again, it borders, you know, Montgomery, and people traveling that corridor to connect to larger Philadelphia, either for work or just for the cultural attractions. I mean, you have the Police Touch, you have the Dell, you have the Main Music Center, the zoo. So
they've got to come through that.
It's a thoroughfare that people are traveling through. So why not, you know, build a commercial corridor that can capture that consumer base that you know, comes along that corridor. But then I also put it across the street from Tustin Recreation Center and Overbrook High School. Overbrook High School, which you know, is actually becoming a turnaround school right now, because, you know, the academics haven't been, you know, the best. But then you also have Tustin Recreation Center, where, you know, we've had violent incidents taking place. I mean, you guys know, we grew up there. Violent incidents taking place there, you know, as recent as a couple of years back, when we lost, you know, Overbrook High School student. It was Bernard Scott, and who had a bright future. But, you know, putting my office there and talking to young people about, these are the things that you can change in your community in this space. I mean, not even just in this space, but, you know, just being active in your community is, you know, the very first step to changing the reality that you're living in. And that's what I just explained to them. And that's when, you know, they get it. They get that, you know, this larger conversation that we're having that they feel like they can't touch, how it connects to, you know, our day-to-day and everyday.
And what I think is important is that you've experienced some things that they've experienced too, because
that's
you know,
really
unfortunately, they're losing their friends. You know what I mean? Their peers. You know, and that's
that's a reality. I mean, you know, I've never talked about it, but you know, I lost, you know, my very first boyfriend to gun violence, and you know, at the age of 18, 19. So you know, it's traumatic. It is, and you know, a lot of our young people are dealing with that trauma. So when they talk about trauma-informed care, like, you know, it is a real thing that we're dealing with, you know, in the urban community. I mean, you have, you know, Councilman Jones always talks, I always want to give credit due so they don't think I'm but, you know, Councilman Jones talks about young people going to school with two different book bags. One with, you know, the books that, you know, they're going to study with, but then the other book bag of what their issues are. And having to, you know, just even as adults, having to deal with the challenges of life. Just imagine a young person that, you know, we're expecting them to, you know, go up and compete with Lower Merion kids or compete with kids that are going to special admit schools, but they're dealing with the challenges that they're coming, you know, from home with, which is, you know, a reality that we faced when we were younger, and, you know, just a reality that they are facing. But, you know, I really think the important thing is that, you know, we explain our story, we, you know, can relate to them, but then tell them, you know, there is a pathway out of this.
Well, you know, it's no secret that this election is very controversial and everything.
A little charged.
Yeah, little
just a little bit.
Little going crazy. So my question to you is, it's actually two-part. Can you explain to the viewers why your position is so important? Because what's happening is, Lauren and I have been hearing this all along, is that people, I'm not voting, you know, and what we've been trying to express to everyone is that this vote is deeper than the presidency. So it was important for me to ask you this question, that I wanted you to explain to people why your position is so important, so that people do get out. And, you know, we've been saying, okay, fine, you don't want to particularly vote for who you want for president, but our issue is getting our elected officials into office. So I just wanted you to explain, like, what your position position is and, you know, what you actually do and why people should vote.
I mean, yeah, I mean, voting is critical. I mean, I get, you know, if you're with her, if you're not with her. I mean, I'm with her. I mean, you can be with the guy that builds the wall if you want to. Right. But, you know,
we're all with her, though.
I think we're all with her. I think it's safe to say.
Yes, I think it's safe to say we're all with her.
Yeah. But when you just look at the election cycle before President Barack Obama, you know, that election against Al Gore, he won it with less than, you know, 5,000 votes. And, you know, with winning it, you know, just with that small amount of a number, you saw we went into war a couple of times. You saw, you know, the banking industry tank. You saw the housing industry tank. You saw the auto industry tank. And, oh yeah, by the, you know, when 8 years are done, you know, they're handing the keys over to, you know, President Barack Obama that has to repair all this. You know, not only, you know, especially to mention unemployment went up. And, you know, just that small margin of, you know, a voting block that, you know, either felt disengaged or didn't need to vote or somebody else was going to take care of it, sent our nation into a completely different direction. And, you know, when you look at those things, not just, and even when you look at, you know, President Barack Obama, when you don't vote for your senator and you don't vote for your congressperson, you know, we have several branches of government for a reason. And, you know, with a Republican Congress, with a Republican Senate, you know, you saw, you know, President Obama, you know, be, you know, locked and blocked out of a lot of the policies.
We were just talking about
a lot of the policies that he wanted to get through. And, you know, when you look at it like that type of impact that this can have, you know, it makes it even more significant to understand why we're voting down ballots. So even if, you know, Hillary Clinton becomes president, it's a situation where if she has a Republican Congress and a Republican Senate, she can really have the experience that our current president has had, where they have not been able to get policies through. They've been striking things down. I mean, you have the Supreme Court piece, that's a big issue. And it was even a shocker for me when I realized, you know, the union issue that came before the Supreme Court, where, you know, they were, you know, making the attempt to, you know, strike down unions' ability to, you know, organize. And, you know, my mom was a DC 47 girl. I mean, I understand when, you know, they don't get pay raises. I understand when, you know, their collective bargaining is taken away. I understand when they have to go on the picket line. I mean, you literally just saw SEPTA on the picket line, really fighting for family sustaining wages. I mean, just fighting for, you know, the middle class. So, you know, when you're not voting these down ballot races, it has a longing, you know, impact. When you say that our presidents aren't able to get things done, it's because they don't have partners that think the way that they do, or, you know, will come to the table and, you know, reach common ground like we need in order to get things done. And, you know, even as a state representative, I mean, we control around over $30 billion of the state's budget. $30 billion. It's where our education funding comes from. It's where our transportation funding comes from. It's, you know, the state representative, the General Assembly controls gun laws. It controls, you know, our ability to tax different things. So, you know, when we talk about a lot of the guns that are on the street, you know, it's your state representative, it's your state senator. Like, you can see when city council, you know, pushes calling on the Pennsylvania General Assembly to do things, it's because they don't have, you know, local control over issues. So I'll give you the perfect piece of legislation that is just going to impact Philadelphia to no end is liquor. When we're talking about privatizing our liquor stores, when we're talking around the thing is modernizing our liquor stores, expanding hours, allowing for additional days, allowing for additional entities to, you know, sell alcohol. And, you know, we already have a struggle with, you know, the illegal exchange of alcohol, the illegal exchange of tobacco and things like that. And, you know, just one of the issues that have recently come up is that there's a loophole in their, you know, liquor control legislation that allows to sell for shots. Like, you're literally, the convenience stores convenience stores are allowed to, there's a loophole in the legislation that allows them to sell shots of liquor as long as they have like an eating establishment of 30 seats and they're selling food. And the food that they can sell is warming up a couple of oodles and noodles.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, so that's what we're dealing with when we have these corner stores. But, we also, your state representatives and your state senators control that. So, that's why we need to pay attention all the way down the ballot.
Okay, cool. So we're out of time. If you could just tell.
Okay.